Hi, welcome back to another edition of Relatable. I am your host, Stephanie Michele. A little bit blonder, you might be able to see that, but still Stephanie Michele. Today I am going to tease a little bit about some things that I'm going through, and you're going to hear a lot more about this in the weeks to come. And what I'm experiencing right now is just being in the middle of something. I'm hearing myself tell my friends that I'm in a transition, and I'm also hearing in my language that I call transition kind of messy, and the middle is kind of a mess. And I also heard myself saying the only way through that is just to deal with it, to make friends with the struggle, own that struggle, and remind myself that it's temporary. But there's this other little voice that started talking to me, and that voice is saying, hey, you've become way too friendly with the struggle, and it's time to make some new friends. So I'm in the middle of making some new friends and loving on some old ones in the process. And the thing that's become the most present to me is, you hear me sign off the show about relate with curiosity and how important that is. And I'm really strengthening and renewing that friendship with curiosity. Curiosity allows me to look at the mess and say, why this or why not that? And just evaluate it and spend time in it and, enjoy it in many ways. Curiosity, honestly, allows me to take the struggle of that mess and look at it like a blessing. Like, look at it like there's something here that you need to learn. There's something that you can do with this, and just pay attention and play with it. So I'll be sharing more about, I know that sounds like, ooh, she's telling us something, but she's not totally telling us something. I will tell you more as the weeks unfold. Right now, in the meantime, I'm just going to ask you, what are you in the middle of? And is there opportunity for you to be more playful, curious, and loving with that middle? That middle is important. Don't worry about the start, what you need to start or what you need to finish. Like, love the middle. Play with the middle. So we're going to talk a lot more about that in the weeks to come. And I just want to shout out Oprah and Gary Zube and Carolyn Miss. I watched a lot of things with curiosity, and we sat on the couch and we watched some really just soul cleansing lectures and Oprah's Soul Sunday. And I'm really grateful that I share the planet with these people. And that brings me to my guest too. I have also had a really awesome conversation in the last couple of weeks with my guest today, and I really am grateful for those conversations too, that this person was present with me, and you're going to see more of that in this room today. So let's meet him. So my guest today is Steve Maher. He became a professional hugger after being inspired by a simple meditative vision. He saw himself hugging a friend for what seemed like a really long time. When he actually tried doing this in reality, he was captivated by what the experience was. It was a profound sense of connection and well-being and a deep quality of open-heartedness. He subsequently trained to become a somatic, and that means of the body, therapist in core energetic tradition at the Radical Alliance Institute. Steve's counterculture work is based on the realization, supported by numerous recent clinical studies, and that being held in a non-sexual content is a naturally restorative and healing practice. Yes. He sees clients one-on-one and leads groups in private practice. Welcome, Steve. I'm so excited about this. It's just as I'm reading this and remembering our conversation, yes.
It was good to hear you read.
Yeah?
Read that, yeah.
I should also tell you, I haven't shared this with you. So I send out an email to let people know, hey, this is who the guest is going to be. And, this is what we're going to be talking about. And the subject of that email line was, do you need a hug? And this email got more response than any other show that I've ever put out. And in some of the responses were as simple as, yeah, I do. I need a hug, which is just awesome. I got to interact with some friends I haven't talked to. That's cool, isn't it?
That's very cool.
It's something so simple. So I always ask guests that are sitting in that chair, I got to share kind of what's on my mind. And is there anything that's pulling your attention right now that you want to talk about before we talk about hugging and what we came here to do today?
Good question. I think I'm aware of how high the stakes are in our world right now, that may result in the planet being habitable or not habitable. And so I'm just, I'm present to that in my heart. It's kind of a heavy thing to consider, but I'm also wondering, like, this little piece of work that I'm doing that helps people to feel a more vulnerable human relationship, how may that be part of one of many things that needs to happen for the planet to heal?
Yeah, I really feel that. Thank you for sharing. There's something about our culture that says everything has to be done on this big, big, big level, but it really feels like, and everything about, my intuition, all those little voices in there saying it has to be done here, like one-on-one. So it is really important. What you're doing is really important. Like, there's a ripple in everything, right? And I think I feel everything that you said. I think part of that, the issues and why we're feeling so much trauma is we've lost touch with the value of these things. And if we find the value of these things, there is opportunity to cleanse and heal humanity and take better care of each other and our planet.
Yeah.
So we have to, we just have to find a way back to this, right? Well, speaking of that, you can tell where this conversation is going. We are soulfully in the room. B is in the room. We're all in this room right now. So when I learned about you and learned about your work, and after talking to you, we had 2 conversations, kind of leading up to this to figure out like how best to have this conversation, because we both feel it's pretty important. My sense of you is just someone like he is so connected to his soul. Like, this is like very soulful work. Do you relate to that? Like,
yes, and I'm also, and I bring this into my work as well, I can get disconnected from that aspect of myself.
Yeah.
And so the question is really like, how do I keep reconnecting to who I really am? That's the way I like to say it, like who I really am when I feel myself in my heart, when I feel in connection to other people in a way that makes me want to move toward them rather than be suspicious of them. So I know the in and I know the out.
Yeah.
Which I think is just human.
Yeah. So are you able to kind of catch yourself when you feel like you're moving away from that?
I'm actually attempting to write a book about this subject called about disconnection and connection.
Yeah.
So I monitor it in myself, and then of course it's like, what are the tools and practices that help us to move out of the place where we feel separate from life or in opposition to life in a variety of ways.
And what comes up for me when hearing you talk about that is like, this is a natural thing. Like, I think the most evolved gurus of gurus even would struggle with this, because absolutely everything on our planet, the way we consume, the way, the media, like entertainment, absolutely everything pulls us away from this. So to me, when I remind myself, give yourself a break. If you pulled away, like everything, is pulling you away from that. So it's okay, like, if you have a human moment and catch yourself. And it also allows me to be compassionate to other people, because they're experiencing culture too. They're experiencing advertising and mass consumerism and Amazon and like buy. This is how you get happy. So everybody's experiencing it. We're going to have these moments where like, let me check in and see if that feels good to me.
And it's not a failure to be in that place. It's just kind of a call to be more aware, I think.
Yeah. Feel that. So before, let's go back in like Steve's childhood. Let's learn a little bit more about you. Is there anything that, now looking back at your childhood or previous experiences, that would have kind of pointed you in this direction? Like, of course I would be a professional hugger. Of course I would be doing therapy work.
Well, when I first discovered this, which felt like a divine accident, if
Yeah.
you will, I never saw myself as a person who like didn't get enough touch but truth be told, my mother was depressed during most of my childhood. And I was the last child of four, and I have much older sisters. So she was pretty pooped out being a parent by the time I came on the scene. And she confessed to me when I was in my 30s that she didn't hold me very much.
Wow.
Which was decades before I
Yeah.
discovered this. So, you don't have to be a scientist to connect the dots
Right.
that somebody who wasn't held very much might have an increased desire and capacity to appreciate touch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was that moment like when she told you that?
At the time, I think I was pretty matter of fact about it. I don't think I had an emotional response or I thought, well, that explains. It was just like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
She actually described walking by my room and seeing me in the crib, feeling guilty for not picking me up, and I would smile at her, and she would go, "Okay, he's okay," and she'd keep walking.
It's amazing. What's coming up for me when you're sharing this is, I think that there's no good training books for parents to have to readjust the relationship when the child becomes an adult. Like that's a weird transition. Like, oh, how do we talk to each other? How do we relate? But this idea of two adult people, whether a parent and a child, but adults having a moment where they're like, I'm reflecting back on something, and this might open the door for you. Like, I feel like that's a very healing. Like, that's a type of conversation that probably should be happening more. Like,
it's kind of like making an amends.
Yeah.
Of sort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've had a couple of those with my parents, and I just lost my train of thought. Oh, and I experienced myself like, yeah, there certainly are things that I'm probably still learning about my childhood, or still unpacking or readjusting, and having like different certain feelings or labeling feelings towards my parents. But in those moments that I reflect on, I'm like, oh yeah, you did the best you could. Yeah, I'm like, I've felt myself opening and going, now this makes sense. We're good. Like, anything that might have been there in terms of resentment or confusion, it just like melted away in those moments. Yeah, it's just kind of interesting to sort of think. I've never thought about that, but just to think about, like, I think we live in a time where we're so afraid of conversation. We don't express feelings. That gets pushed down. That's considered a weakness. And yet, those little moments can be so incredibly profound, and it's good for both people. It's like it's good for whoever's involved.
I'm a big fan of vulnerability as a value.
Yeah.
And I did a storytelling training with my partner, Mark, who
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and one of the questions to really ponder and then to incorporate in your story was, like, what are your deepest values? And it was a 3-day training, and the night before the last day, I was just angst-ridden. Like, what is my core? What is the deepest value? And then the morning of it hit me like an epiphany.
Yeah.
I love epiphanies.
Yeah.
And it was shared vulnerability creates deep connection and mutual empowerment. So if I'm willing to be vulnerable with you, and you're willing to be vulnerable with me, that'll create a real connection between us, and we'll both be stronger. It'll be a healing moment for both of us.
I felt that. I believe that.
And I consciously have certain friendships where we will use one another in a very conscious way. Like, can I take a few minutes and tell you what's going on with me? And then they'll take a turn. And I don't, we may have been calling because we were in some kind of distress, but by the time we hang up, often there's just this sense of like, I feel good to be alive, and I'm so connected to you, and I love you. There's often, and I love you.
I love that. I love this. We've been talking about this, or something that you said. I think that's really important. Is in that exchange, there was a question asked. You invited somebody in. Can I share something with you? I think that is the most powerful thing that we can do for each other right now. It's like if you know, if people are listening to me, especially what I just shared about Millie, like, where is she? That sounds so woo woo. I'm not there, but yet something's going on. You know, start with a question and really invite people into conversation. I believe, and this is my personal experience, because the phone is so prominent in between most of our social interactions, and you know, sometimes we rely on it for the texting, and that when we get together, we really don't know how to feel connected to each other. And so we have to like invite each other into the connection. And a question is a very cool tool to do that. It's a very simple way to think, are you available for this? Can we have this conversation?
Right. And the other thing that I think is so important is to really cultivate listening skills. Because I know in a lot of conversations, I may ask you a question, but while you're answering me, I'm responding to what you're saying in my mind, and I actually am not present anymore.
Yeah.
Because I'm waiting to tell you the thing I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
So to actually slow it way down.
Yeah.
I do it with my partner. We'll actually we play this, it's called a meeting of two, where we'll set a timer for like 2 or 3 minutes, and I'll speak and he'll listen, and he'll speak and I'll listen. So it stops that mechanism of I'm not present with you because I'm waiting to talk.
Do you practice in that mirroring? So do you use the, like, I'm going to repeat back what I think I heard you say?
I know that, but that's not a part of what we do generally.
Yeah.
But there's naturally, you know, we're looking for some kind of resonance.
Yes.
Like, I see you, I'm really here with you.
Yeah.
I care to know what's going on with you.
Yeah.
So it's slowed down enough for all of that to surface, which is really human. And I think all of us really need that. We may have become detached from it with the pace of our lives and the way that we typically communicate, which more and more is by text and not even by, like, it's old fashioned to actually pick up a phone and call somebody.
Yeah. You called me? What? Right. The sky must be falling. Why are you calling me? Like,
you must be beyond a certain age if you're using if you're calling somebody. Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I hearing that, if you think about this, like, almost everything that we encounter in life has some sort of structure to it. You know, we have a button to turn on a computer, our email's organized in one area, we search online, there's some interface that's like, it's this way, there's a sequence of things, there's structure to it. And yet this, when we come together, like, it's just assumed this works, which is ridiculous, because, you know, separate hearts, minds, you're going through stuff, I'm going through stuff, we hope it's going to work out, you know, but there's a lot more in this energy field that could go wrong. Or wrong might be a strong word, but just not make sense. So the idea of, like, we need a little structure. If we want to be good at this, if we want to be good at relating and feeling connected with each other, a little structure is probably the way back to that.
I think so too. It can feel oppressive as an idea.
Yeah. Like,
that's so controlling, but in my experience, I don't do it all the time, right?
Yeah.
But when I'm feeling kind of clogged up and disconnected, I actually need to have a really intentional connection. And I need a place that I can express my vulnerability, that I know will be safe for me. So it's, you know, I really value it.
Yeah. And even in that's structure. Like, you know yourself well enough to go, okay, I'm having this experience, I'm feeling this, I need this. This is the ailment, this is the solution. Right. Yeah.
It's one of the tools for deeper connection to self and connection to other people.
Yeah, I love it. So we you know, there were questions that came in through, I told you, the emails that, you know, people were really respond to this, and I think there's 2 things that I want to cover, and then we might do some hugging in this room. If Steve, we'll see. We might. It's probably more on me about where we might do it or not. Speaking of vulnerability, Um, so, there's stigma around mental health. This, like somebody, I mean, I know somebody might be like, really? Hugging?
Suspicion.
Yeah, little suspicion. How do you address that? Like when you encounter like,
First of all, I get it.
yeah.
Because people's motivations sometimes are not always on the surface. So it's something that needs to be addressed. In my hugging workshops, we articulate like strong sexual boundaries, because when you're physically close, you may have sexual feelings come up. So you kind of need to just like say that's a possibility, and we're not going to do anything about that.
Right.
Like this is going to be a non-sexual meeting, and sexual feelings may come up, and that's okay because we're human.
Yeah.
And I know this is a bit countercultural, and if you had told me the day before I had my hugging vision and had my experience the next week that I would be doing this, I would have been like, you're nuts. I didn't see myself as that guy.
Yeah.
But I had such a powerful experience that I just couldn't ignore it.
Yeah. Undeniably spiritual. Like undeniably connected to something. How would you call that?
It felt spiritual, but it was mostly just this, like, I feel so good to be alive. Like, I feel so me. I remember thinking, my first experience wasn't, I thought it would be a 15-minute experience, because that's a long time to hug somebody, right?
Yeah.
It ended up being 2.5 hours.
Wow.
And I never wanted it to stop.
Yeah.
We just stopped because we hadn't devoted a whole day to it.
Yeah.
But it just, how it made me feel.
Yeah.
I remember thinking I could die. That's the thing I was going to say. Like, I could die now. Like, this, whatever it is that I thought I needed to experience in order to have a full life, and somehow in that moment, it felt complete.
Yeah. There's two things that come up for me sharing that. So I don't think most people are afraid of dying. And they're afraid of how they're going to die. Like, nobody wants to die in a tragic situation. So what would be more amazing than dying in the middle of a hug? Like, really? Like, that's the way you're sending out? So just me being silly, that's what I was thinking of. But also, we're talking about this, like, oh yeah, a hug sounds nice, but there is some science involved. Like, there is this thing called oxytocin that's exchanged. You want to talk about that?
Yeah. When I started doing this, I don't know, there wasn't much literature. But I did a search the other day, just knowing I was coming here. There are so many studies around touch and what happens in the body. And it's science. It's oxytocin, which is the emotional bonding chemical. People often refer to breastfeeding mothers who are falling in love with their infants. And obviously they need to fall in love with them because they're going to caretake them.
They're going to cry and poop and everything else.
For 18, 20 years. And so oxytocin levels go up. Even if we hugged for 30 seconds and we felt safe, it's important to feel safe. Oxytocin levels would go up, serotonin levels would go up, blood pressure would go down, cortisol, which is the stress hormone, that would go down. It's good medicine. The immune system is stronger. I have not had a day of illness in a couple of years. And I accredit it largely to the fact that I get so much touch.
I 100% believe it. I joke a lot about, I have a dog, I have a Bichon, have a niece, like little fluffy thing, but he's baby weight. He's the perfect, like, I don't have a child, but this is like the baby weight. So I pick him up and I squeeze him, and I'm, and I just take a deep breath, and like, I feel good. Like, I feel really good. He's now getting a little bit older and a little bit grumpy about that. So we have to negotiate a different contract. He's like, what? This lady, she's squeezing at me again. But yeah, I mean, even in just that, I can feel it. I can feel it. I know that this is something,
I think that a thing that I struggle with in terms of people's perception is this idea that it's weird. And that the people who would want to do this are weak, or, like, they don't have any friends. And I just really I want to push back against that. It's human,
Yeah.
and we live in a very individualized culture that kind of discourages vulnerability, discourages interdependency.
Yeah.
Like codependency is like a big thing, and codependency is problematic, but interdependency is human, and I really think that's a value we need to cultivate. And so part of what this is for me is just connecting at a human level, and our bodies are designed to benefit from it, not only as infants, but as adults. I think that was one of the big takeaways is, like, yes, as children, we actually don't survive if we're not touched.
Yeah.
You can be fed and clothed and bathed, but if you don't get touched, you don't develop emotionally, you don't develop an immune system. So as adults, we still have a similar response.
Yeah.
We may not need it as critically, for survival, but we still need it.
Yeah. And it's a resource or source that we all have the potential to give and receive, and it's there for us. So I wish there was some magical words that I could say that just remove that stigma, because as just a human on this earth right now, like, I want people to have resources, the same resources that are meant for us to share. And this is one of them.
It absolutely is. I think the biggest barriers are probably cultural. I had a woman from India. I was on a television program some years ago that had a big distribution, and I think she was a therapist, and she wrote and said that she cannot ask for a hug from her husband. I think that was a cultural norm.
Well, even, in our call, like, we talked this weekend, and Steve was giving me all this context around hugs that I've never thought about. And he said to me, he's like, part of this work is like letting people know that they can ask, like, can you hold me a little bit longer? And when he said that, like, I felt my body go, whoa. Like, I don't know if I've definitely never asked for that. But that was so foreign to me, and I had to really sit with that and go, why wouldn't you ask for that? Like, what's there? What's the conditioning that that's not okay? Because it doesn't seem like a big request, but it landed in my body like a huge request.
Can you speak a little bit more about it? Like, what's underneath?
I really think, and I shared a little bit about this. I definitely, there wasn't a lot of touch in my family, so I do feel like there's a little bit of, I almost feel too thirsty. So like, I have that, those are words that I've labeled, too thirsty, right? Or too starving, whatever it is. But also I have a very, I would say unhealthy, I'm just gonna say the word unhealthy relationship with time right now. That's part of this middle sharing that I was talking about at the beginning, that I'm just, the rush to complete a list, that seems like a better utilization of my time. Okay. But what I'm starting to play in is like, well, allow energy to take space and make that more important. I'm in the middle of it, so I'm not going to have the right language for it, but there are different ways to access energy and even time that will better serve me than racing against time every day and having this relationship with time where, see, there wasn't enough time, or, oop, I got everything done, but I'm exhausted. Like, there's a very healthy relationship between time. And so the idea of asking to be held longer, like, I'm almost afraid that I would never want to leave either. Like, that I might be the person 2 hours later going, have we ate? Like, do we need to eat something?
Well, just so you'll know that you're not defective, my unofficial motto, and I threatened to put it on a t-shirt, is there's never a good time to stop. Like, when you open into it, in my workshops, I jokingly say to my participants, when they don't end, when I'm asking them to end, that I'm going to have to put the fire hose on them. Yeah. Just because they might have been nervous in the beginning, because sometimes it's strangers hugging strangers. Yeah. But by the end, they're just opened up and don't want to separate. But back to the time thing, I relate to issues around time. When I meditate, which I try to do every day, I have to literally tell myself, it's okay for this 15 whatever minutes to do absolutely nothing. Because there's this way that we are in our fast-moving culture that we need to always be working. And that even when we designate time off, sometimes I don't know what to do with my time off. Like this thing that I work to get, and then I can't give it to myself. So really, it's like, I'm suspicious of that whole notion. Like, it's okay. Sometimes I think I'll be more productive if I move more slowly rather than more quickly.
Well, I'm experiencing that. Like because there's some other, you guys are going to be like, she's going woo-woo on us again, but I'm going there, you know. So time is like one direction, but slowing down, there's something that becomes more available, more information, and it's like lateral, and it's like there's not even lateral, it might be all over. Like there's like time is maybe my relationship with time and why I label it so unhealthy is it feels like it's supporting this this independence model in me. And I believe in interdependence. I really believe that, you know, my time on Earth is about connecting, and independence is a myth, and it's making us unhealthy. You know, we see everybody's social media rule of perfection and editing. That's why we don't edit the show. You know, it's live, it's real. But so I think time is kind of like supporting. Oh, it's just you. You know, it's you, like, you got to get this list done. It's all about you, you know, and so it feels unhealthy to me because a core value is interdependence in relationship. And so meditating, slowing it down, involves more of this collective view in, and some of it's spiritual and some of it's like, you know what, my friend's name just popped into my head. Like, I want to connect with them. I'm sitting here alone struggling with this to-do list when I have people available to me right now that like I should be connecting with. Like, what else should I be doing on this earth right now but that? Like, you know, so I'm still learning, but it's, there's something. There's
also something about when you get still, you become more receptive to creativity and inspiration.
Yes.
Whereas in the fast mode, I can be like, I have to figure this out. I have to solve this problem. And there's a way that it's circular and it doesn't really do what it thinks it wants. It's like the mind on its own that's not connected to the body. Doesn't generate the solutions.
So one other question before we maybe shift gears a little bit here that came up. So there's a viewer question is, how can we be sensitive, or so I think some men asked her, with the sensitivity to these Me Too moments and things, how, if a person is a hugger, like how, you know, what are I think the question is like, what lines do we need to talk about, or what do we do? Like, if you like to hug and you're feeling the sensitivity of the moment that we're in right now, how can you better handle that? That's the question.
Well, I don't know that I have the answer, except that it's good to be mindful that we're not stealing something from somebody that they don't want to give us. And hugging can seem benign, but it can also feel like a violation. People know that I'm a hugger, right? And sometimes they assume that I am always available for a moment to hug them. And the truth is, I'm not. Like, I need to be negotiated with as well. So it's good to say it out loud, to ask for it, and to be okay with no.
I think that's a perfect answer, and I would add to this is like maybe just a little bit more dialogue. So if you are a hugger and you're networking or in a business thing, just kind of give a warning, or a little bit of communication. Hey, I'm a hugger, so people can kind of, this is always communicating. Even if words don't come out of the other person, if you see them kind of do this, I call them micro glances. Like, I catch the micro glance and go, oh, they're saying it's okay, but it's not okay, and I'll adjust. But always communicating, lots of communication going on. So If you say, if you still want to hug and you want to kind of feel this out and make sure it's okay, just kind of give a warning. I'd like to hug. Can I give you a hug? Some communication will help you.
Right, and I would probably say that a business context is probably not the best place to work this out, unless you really are feeling a strong connection with someone. But it would be kind of like with my friends, can I be a little more transparent? Those of us, even in relationships, I think that couples aren't necessarily comfortable directly asking for what they need.
Yeah.
I was hearing the other day, one of the things I was reading was some research that's being done on conflict resolution using touch with couples, whereas we tend to rely on the words, and the words can kind of get us stuck.
They're stingy. They can sting, words can sting.
Yeah, it's like we need to take away words sometimes and just let the body speak. And hugging is a language. I mean, if you think of it as a language delivery, what is it saying? When it's consensual and it's safe, it's saying, I care about you. You're safe. I'm willing to be close to you. I approve of you without you having to do anything. Powerful messages that we all need. And, just when I say them, I start to feel my own emotions joining them. And I've noticed, I'm looking into your eyes.
You seeing my micro glances going on here? Yeah.
It's like I'm speaking to a deeper need in you.
Yeah.
Right?
I say a lot that my pet peeves sometimes, not sometimes, my pet peeves in the world is people that don't know that we're in the world together. And so even just like I'm sharing this moment with you now, like we're now in this moment. It's shared. Like I don't know why that's so profound to me, but it is. I'm sharing. Right. Sharing is caring. I was raised sharing is caring, and like that. What is better than that?
We're getting to have a conversation about something that we feel is meaningful.
Yeah. I feel that. Well, so I would like to see and feel and hear more about this, or I guess experience more of your work. Are you okay with me kind of turning over presenter mode and we demonstrating a little?
Sure.
Yeah.
Let me just give a caveat. Okay. We're just going to do a little bit, right? Yeah. Which doesn't mean that it won't be potentially powerful. Yeah. But one of the great things about the hugging work that I do is that it's almost like a meditation. And there are periods, long periods, where there can be silence, and it's just really about feeling the comfort of another human body and allowing yourself to settle into that experience. And it takes a little while often to move beyond the novelty of the initial connection, like this is new, I haven't done that, I've never touched you, are you sure this is okay? Do you trust me? Do I trust you? So those are things that get worked out if you have time. So we're not going to have a lot of time, and we could really bore an audience if we just laid there silently.
You're just tuning in. We're just sitting here and not talking. I understand all that. So I heard all that, and I also want to acknowledge if people are watching right now or whenever they watch, like my commitment in this moment is to be in this room and to be as honest as possible about what I'm experiencing. So I know that, it might be hard for me to be quiet, but I also want to be able to say, okay, this is what's happening, so people know, because they can't feel. And a lot of times I wish we could invent some way of like just letting people feel what's in the room, because there's this conversation that's happening, but there's also something that we are both feeling, Beatrice is feeling, like, that I wish that I could share. So I'll try to explain that if things come up in this moment.
So if it works with the technical constraints, in my workshops, I always start by having people stand up and hug one another for like 30 seconds. As kind of a warm-up. And then maybe we could do a little check-in after that and just see, like, how was that?
Yeah, okay.
And then if we want to do a little more, then we can or don't have to.
I have to get the nod from, you guys are probably going to see a little bit of the raw environment of the studio. So when we stand, you might see lights. Like it's going to change a little bit because we're
Set up
positioned
for
for down here.
Right.
So as long as you understand that and you know that you're going to see sort of a behind the scenes where we can stand up,
Okay.
and then we can do. I am turning this over to you.
Okay.
Okay. So if we're standing, we're standing. Dee, are you with us? Sometimes too, I wish we had a mirror so we could show people how she's participating with us too.
Right.
But we're gonna go for it. Okay.
So before we do that, I'm just being spontaneous here. What if we just hold hands here for?
Does it matter what you?
It doesn't.
That actually feels weird to me, so I'm gonna give you.
Okay, good. And we don't have to make eye contact. We can, but just like to feel like we're just touching one another. We had a quick hug when I came in. And just, I'm feeling your hand and you're feeling mine, and they're different temperatures, right? Different sizes. So it's also just a way to, like, we're communicating now through this channel. Okay. How was that for you?
Awesome. It's a different level of peace.
Okay. Would it be okay if we stood up and tried?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're going to see our little mic boxes have to go along with us.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, we have
actually,
little friends.
I mean, this isn't just your living room?
No. People ask that. No. This is not my living room. Okay. Sorry. Well, you had a better idea. So then it's not in our way.
It seems to be long enough.
Okay.
So, right. It's okay that it's uncomfortable in the beginning. Okay. So just breathe and feel your feet on the floor. You don't have to do anything, but just be here to the best of your ability and notice what you're feeling. When you don't know what to do, it's good to focus on your breath. Yeah, and make sure your stance supports you, right? And then just add in, like, feel where I'm making contact with your body and where you're making contact with my body.
Feels like a dance.
It is like a dance, yeah. So how are you doing? Like, what works? What feels challenging? What are you noticing?
I feel my mic. So that's like see, it's that technology in the middle of everything. So it's like I'm aware of that kind of poking. But that's not. I mean, I feel okay. I mean, I don't feel the need to label it, like to.
Okay, say too much?
Yeah.
Actually, we can break now.
Okay.
Oh, it's not my mic, it's my necklace.
Ah, right. Your healing crystal.
Yes. We might have to take that off.
You're healing the world with that.
Well, at that point, it was not healing. But yeah, I could take that off.
So one of the great things about hugging in a meditative fashion is that it does take away words.
Yeah.
And sometimes it'll usher forth things that come up in vulnerability.
Yeah.
So that can also prompt exploration that's deeply felt.
Yes.
So do you want to try the
sure
on the floor?
Should I take this off? Do you think that?
I think we can work around that.
Okay.
Okay. So I do this sometimes in my workshops. It's one person is the giver and the other is the receiver, which just happens to be the language of this particular posture. So I'm going to sit here and I'm just going to open my legs so that you can sit here and lay back into me.
So so where are my legs
sit
going?
Right in front of me,
like
facing that direction.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I'm like, are we spidering like on the swing set like a little kid?
Okay. So if you could just lean back.
Okay.
Okay, lean all the way back into me. You have your weight. Yeah. So your job is just to receive.
Nice.
Sometimes people are more uncomfortable in your position because it's more vulnerable, and a lot of us, I'm more comfortable giving than receiving. Just let your body feel where we're making contact. It's okay that I have my hands on your arms?
Yes.
Okay. It's important to be able to express comfort level and boundaries. And sometimes people have a hard time expressing where they're not comfortable. Is there any way that you're not comfortable now that you're not speaking about?
No. I'm surprised that I'm not, actually. No.
And if you do this for like 10 minutes, often in my workshops I'll have people change positions, right, and experience both. But there's also like where do you put people's hands? Like I have my hands here. It would be more vulnerable for you if I had my hands on your stomach, but that's another option. So as people get more comfortable, become able to say, would you put your hands here?
That's a big part of this, really, isn't it? To be able to go, I'm comfortable, but can I ask for more comfort?
Can I ask for what I need or what I want? So just feel into that. Maybe there isn't anything, but just allow yourself to look. And if you find something, see if you can ask for it.
Well, I'm just going to experiment because I am pretty comfortable right now. And I know that I'm uncomfortable about asking that question.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna. I feel like
take a risk.
I'm gonna go full speed ahead.
Good for you.
So I would like to ask, can you put your arms around me?
You want my arms underneath your arms or over?
I think well, let's see. No, under. And then it kind of changes where I go. Yeah.
Right. Can I put my hand on your heart?
Yes.
Obviously, I'm avoiding your breasts. That's
and my jammy necklace that might hurt you.
It's going to be part of the healing delivery system.
There is rose quartz in there, so we're good.
So just notice, like, that's more intimate. I know I hold a lot of my vulnerability in my stomach.
Yes.
So you may be noticing.
Yeah, I heard it. The little gurgles in there. Not gerbils. Little gargles.
So why don't we go another, like, just 30 seconds, and maybe we'll be quiet and potentially bore the audience. But
like, what is happening on Relatable today?
If they just tuned in, gone off the edge. Maybe just talk about anything you're aware of.
Yeah. So when we were quiet, and the vision that came into my head is more of a curled up, almost a small girl, head in the chest of the dad, kind of like hug. Right. So more of like on the side. Yes, that's what came up. So I probably should ask for that. Like, I'm feeling like I should ask for that, but also feeling very weird about asking for it. To hug that way. Like, kind of be on my side.
We could try that for a minute if you want to.
Okay.
Vulnerable, huh?
I know.
Good for you.
Okay, let's see how we do this.
Like this.
Great. So just really find most comfortable spot, like you can move your head around. Certain parts of the body are softer than other parts. There you go. Felt your legs relax a little. Okay if I touch your hair? So we don't know one another well, right? But what I'm aware of is just how it feels for you to be trusting me, whatever level you're, and that you asked for this, and just what it feels like to be holding you. Also aware of the vulnerability. So you can imagine if we didn't have an audience and we had time, that this, you could go deeper. And then there's like, is it okay if I stroke your arm? Like all the ways that we can deliver comfort. But we do have to feel safe, and we need to know that we can say when we're not safe, or that we'd really prefer something different.
Yeah. I'm kind of surprising myself right now.
How so?
I feel safe. I feel like that could that first fear of, oh, I can't ask for that. It seems kind of ridiculous. Like, it's like, and I'm just playfully going, yeah, that was kind of silly. Like,
but really normal.
Yeah.
I really want you to know. And there really was courage in you being able to say it out loud.
But I also, now I'm just kind of reflecting, I heard my voice in asking for where we are right now, and how little that voice was. How how childlike that voice was, and like just have, I don't know what, just some awareness around how, like, where I went in that request.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. So in my sessions, I end gradually because it's kind of like when a massage stops suddenly, it can be a little jarring. And so I just want to say, we'll be stopping soon, and it might actually be good for you to stop rather than for me to, like, so that you make the choice to break the connection.
I got it.
Rather than being pulled away from you.
Okay. Kind of lift up.
Now you're noticing your great socks.
Yes, I wondered about these socks.
I love fun socks.
Hi.
Hi.
Should we get back to the chairs
Yeah,
and
let's go back to the
finish
chairs.
up?
Thank you for that.
Welcome. I just want to say that the most obvious place to experiment with all of this is in intimate relationships. But if you have a friendship that you trust, it actually can be a very powerful way for friends to connect.
Yeah.
If you know what the boundaries are, you articulate, like, this isn't meant to be romantic, or maybe it's like, I do have these feelings for you, So I just want to say that out loud, so
Yeah.
that there's not like a covert thing. It's just so important to have trust.
Yes.
But I have one friendship in particular that I have cultivated the friendship with us holding one another.
Yeah.
And when we're just having lunch, it's a different animal. There's been a lot of vulnerability. So I know that's countercultural, but I think it's something I just want to name.
Yeah. Thanks for that. I want to share. Like, I actually feel glow, like a glow around my head right now. Like, it's different. Like, sitting here now with you is
Yeah.
very different.
Yes.
It's a very different experience just because of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Just that short time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, it's safe. I'm like, what to-do list? Like, there's something different about the space right now. Again, I wish.
Presence.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I sometimes call it a holding meditation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
And there's a name for what you just said, which I call afterglow.
Yeah.
And when you've been hugged for 90 minutes, it really changes how you go out into the world, like how you experience sensory things around you.
It's interesting to me that it's here and not here, and I can only share because my mind's already like, well, what is that, Stephanie? Tell me why you think. I'm very heady. I'm in my head way too much. I know this. We're working on that. So naturally, this would be where that halo feeling is, I think. I mean, if I'm just going to pull what's there, like I can understand, like, hey, this is where we need to be thoughtful and mindful. So that's what's coming up for me right now. I just kind of want to sit here and giggle. Like, is that okay? Can we just giggle for 45 minutes? We can't, though, because we're running out of time. Well, where can people find you? Where can they find you to find more about?
On my website, my brand is called The Ecstatic Embrace.
Which is on the screen right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
TheEcstaticEmbrace.com. And I welcome any feedback, requests. Yeah. And
I know that you work one-on-one, but I actually like the idea of, like, could friends come together and say, even if it's for a dinner, to have some like purposeful, mindful hugging as a part of that gathering. Again, counterculture, like it seems like woo, but and just what I experience right now, I mean, I think there's room for that. I think that there's a way to do that, and that's something that you could lead people into too, as well, a group.
Yes, it's also work that hasn't really been developed yet, but working with couples, bringing this into to that work.
Yeah, I love it. I don't know. I hope I look different. I hope it's enough for you guys to go, I'm going home tonight. I'm going to hug my neighbor. I'm going to hug the mailman. Ask, but have some dialogue. But like, I hope that this encourages or inspires people to reach out to Steve, or to just start with a hug between your partner, your wife or spouse,
or even just for people to be curious, to look inside themselves and say, do I have a need that I haven't really acknowledged?
That's a great question. Do I have a need that I haven't really acknowledged? I love it. So Steve, we usually issue some sort of social challenge of the week together, the guests and I, and I'm feeling like a longer hug. Maybe just start with a longer hug. Is that? Yes.
When you said that, I went immediately. In the next 7 days, ask somebody if they will hold you for 1 minute.
I love it. That's your mission. You choose to accept it, and I hope that you do. Ask someone to hold you in the next 7 days. You got a week. Don't rush with time. Don't have the same relationship with time that I do. You got 7 days, but you're going to ask someone, would they mind holding you for 60 seconds?
Yes, probably somebody you know and can take that risk with.
Yes, yeah, preferably, probably.
Probably not the mailman.
Yeah, probably not the mailman. Scratch that part. I'm just so giggly right now because of this, so don't take that part of me. Don't take all my words. Anyhow, well, this was amazing. I just feel that this was exactly the moment we were supposed to do this.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to talk about this strange countercultural thing that hopefully one day won't be strange.
Yeah, yeah, that's the hope, right?
Yeah.
That it shouldn't be so strange. I don't think it's that strange, but I like it. So, like we mentioned earlier, and I know that it's on the site right now, I will be sharing all of Steve's links. You can get a hold of him and learn about his work and maybe contact him and to be able to be as giggly as I was after a session with him. Thank you for that. Next week, I'm going to have a guest on that's coming all the way from London. Not just for me, he's got other events going on, but he's coming all the way from London. We're going to be talking about his new book release called A Very Human Future. And it's about kind of this intersection of, what is AI and all this automation really going to do to us in the future? Like how can we better prepare for the jobs of the future and even, relating in that context. His name is Rohit Talber. And we're going to have a long discussion about that. And also, I'm going to be speaking at one of his book releases on Monday, and I'll be sharing that information. And as always, so, I usually sign off the show with just relate with more curiosity. And I'm exploring something new, and I want you guys to kind of give me feedback on this if something kind of triggers in you, like, hey, yeah, I'm gonna play with that. I'm gonna say relate from your core curiosities. Like we all have them. We all have something that comes up, and like you're just curious about this topic. For many of us, it's a spiritual thing. You're asking these questions about religion and God, and that core curiosity that always comes up. Like, can you have more dialogue about that? Can you relate with other people? Like, we all have something. We all share little bits of this puzzle, and I think that if we look at each other that way and start to value, what pieces the other person might be holding, we're going to have better interactions with each other. So my new sign off, until something else hits me, is relate with your core curiosities. See you next week.